you ever hear the tragedy of
Cyberpunk 2077?
its
Bugs.
then?
So Cyberpunk 2077 has been out for almost a month now, and I periodically think about how the game's launch went. Originally, the game was due out on April 16th, 2020, which was then pushed back to September 17th, which was then pushed back again to November 19th, and finally, on December 10th, 2020, the game was launched, and it was met with a myriad of responses, from good to bad to whatever that is. Cyberpunk had a lot to live up to. It was announced back in 2012. I don't really remember the announcement back then. I don't remember much hype around it. Although 8 years is a long time for things to change. And from what I remember, CD Projekt Red wasn't a very big studio at the time. A lot has changed since then, obviously. We then got to the year 2015 when they launched a little-known game known as The Witcher 3. And after that, the hype for the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 built a hell of a lot more. Then we hit E3 2019, which brought us that infinitely memed reveal of Keanu Reeves in the game. And it felt like everyone lost their minds. And I don't really understand why. Keanu Reeves is great and all, but a celebrity in a video game is never an assurance of quality by any stretch. If we went by that rule, then by that logic, the Chronicles of Riddick games, the Wheelman, and the upcoming 2-arc Too Furious would all be on the same level of quality. I mean, I don't plan on playing any of those games, but I'm sure they're all crap. You'd swear that the announcement of Keanu Reeves being in the game, that he had become a god.
His wondrous grace has become a god. Become a god. His wondrous grace has become a god. Become a god. We as well shall become as gods. Become as gods. We as well shall become as gods. Become as gods. All of you shall become as gods. Become as gods. All of you shall become as gods. Become as gods. All of you shall become as gods.
Why, yes, I have been playing Nier Automata. Anyway, I wasn't really excited for the game up until about maybe a week or two before release. Nothing I saw up until that point really appealed to me, even though I love the cyberpunk setting. Deus Ex Human Revolution is one of my favorite games ever, and I even went so far as to get the Platinum Trophy on PS3. I mean, what are trophies? But I decided to buy it close to release just to try it out, and I said to myself, you know what, I'll try this, and I'll try and stay within the Steam refund policy to make sure that if I don't enjoy it, I can get the refund. I don't exactly have the highest spec PC. I've got a GTX 1060 3GB i7-9700K processor, and I can get like 50 to 60 frames on medium to low settings with some occasional dips to 30 FPS, so the game doesn't really run well, to say the least. That's at 720p, by the way. But I've put in about 20 to 21 hours into the game so far, and a lot of that has been exploring, doing side missions, just literally walking the world. I've maybe just passed the prologue of the game, like the setup for the main story, essentially. I haven't really gotten much further than that. In the 20 to 21 hours of the game that I've played so far, I've really enjoyed what I've come across. I can really feel the love put in by the CDPR team into the world. The Night City as a whole, the atmosphere is just palpable as this grimy, seedy world where anyone will shoot anyone for any reason. The game is really the game world is really ambitious, and I can really appreciate the heights that the team at CDPR was trying to reach with it. It's a bit like what Keanu Reeves said at E3 2019.
You're breathtaking.
No, the other Keanu Reeves quote, the thing he was trying to say.
Whoa.
The feeling of being there, of walking the streets of the future, is really going to be breathtaking.
I generally agree with this statement. It's a really great world to explore and get caught up in. And I've since uninstalled the game and requested a refund. I didn't get the refund on the game because obviously I had played 20 hours and the Steam refund policy means that you have to only play for within 2 hours. They'll usually accept like 2 to 3, but yeah, 20 is a little bit too much. But goddamn. But I uninstalled the game and requested the refund because I didn't want to experience the world of Cyberpunk in a subpar state. So I'm just gonna wait. I've put the game to the bottom of a back catalogue and I'm just gonna work through like a bunch of other stuff until the game is ready. I guess I'll go back to making my way through the Yakuza series. But I find I'm disappointed in such a strange way that I've never been disappointed in a video game before. It's such a shame that people are experiencing this world in such a bug-filled state, with massive frame drops or just weird occurrences such as that. I'm disappointed that players won't be able to experience this world at its best for weeks, months, maybe even years after it's released due to all the issues of the game, especially for console players or people with lower end PCs. Some people may not even pick up the game because they just decided to watch their favorite streamer play it instead and just decided, yep, cool, that's enough. A similar example to this would be something like Days Gone, the PS4 exclusive that experienced massive bugs and frame rate issues when it came out, and reviewers slammed it hard due to this. Since then, the developers have stayed at it, and the game is pretty solid to play now. In fact, it's actually one of my favorite PS4 exclusives. But I know that no one else has played it because anytime I bring it up, people always go, "Hey, is that weird zombie game with bikes? You ride around on the bikes? And you're Star Killer?" Not that that game was anywhere near as hyped up as Cyberpunk, but it's still a game that was drastically affected due to its initial negative response, and I hope that it's not the same thing for Cyberpunk. And speaking of negative responses, the fans of Cyberpunk didn't exactly help with it. There were a number of memes of people demanding the game be released, and people like, "Oh, the game will be released in 2077, ha ha ha." Oh boy. And every time it was pushed back, there were people slating them in the comments, just being like, "Oh, well, I better put a gypsy curse on the devs because I'm living alone in my parents' basement." And then people also sent death threats about the game. That's the thing that happened, because why not? Why can't people just be normal? There's some really terrible responses from people online. There's people even blaming other people for actually playing the game because they're playing it on a base PS4 or an Xbox One. You know, the consoles that the game was advertised to be out on for 7 years. And they're going, "Well, why are you playing it on 7-year-old hardware, you dingus?" Same people are also saying, "Well, why don't you just buy a PC? Because everyone can afford a $2,000 PC to play a buggy ass game at a lower frame rate during a global pandemic." God, this game induces such anger in me. Seriously, if you're bored some evening, go back and look at some of the responses to the announcement of any of the delays, particularly the delay from November to December. That one's full of some spicy stuff in the responses. There's just this sheer mixture of support, anger, nonsense. I found a tweet of a person saying that CDPR should have hired them and they would have gotten the game out on time. Like, yeah, sure, one person would have made a difference, you dingus. It seems like CD Projekt Red really couldn't win with this game. It came out and people were really giving it a hard time on social media, and rightly so. It even got a 4 out of 10 from IGN for previous gen consoles, which is impressive. And then if they had also delayed it again, you would have had people just responding and sending more death threats, and they would have been tweeting up a storm being like, "My mom already bought this game for me, please, I want to play it. I'm 35 years old." In the days after release, CD Projekt Red had to do some serious damage control, include allowing refunds for the console versions of Cyberpunk, promising large updates for the game on PS4 and Xbox One, due out in January and February. And they cited in a shareholder meeting that maintaining their reputation with players is their first priority. And then the game was pulled from the PlayStation Store because they hadn't cleared the refunds with Sony, or Microsoft, I don't believe. And supposedly there's now a class action lawsuit coming from the shareholders against the company due to false promises. Seriously, I've been trying to make this video for like the last 2 or 3 weeks, and like every day for a week there was just something going on. And I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna hold out to next year. Yeah, I'll just be back. Yeah, I'll record the video when there's no news. Yeah, cool. Thanks guys. Not that CD Projekt Red need any defending. They're a big multinational company and they can dress and feed themselves. They also made the conscious decision to hold off on review copies for the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game, so they're not exactly innocent in all this either. But the whole thing is just disappointing. It's depressing to see how crappy people can act online when they consider themselves fans, but they can never be appeased by some of the decisions made. It's discouraging to see CD Projekt Red take such shady approaches to try and hide the console versions and to try and hide some of the bugs in the game. And it sucks most of all that even though Cyberpunk 2077 has been out for a month, you still kind of have to wait to play the game because it's just not done yet.